Cardinals, Mrs. Nelms here for our last week of Jazz Appreciation Month. This week's song is by Etta James and it's called Stormy Weather. If you can remember back to the beginning of the year, we had once talked about how feelings can be like a storm. But after each storm we experience, we know that we will see a rainbow at the end. This means that sometimes life is hard. But if we rely on our coping skills and our loved ones, we can get through anything and have hope that tomorrow will be a better day. This has been a difficult year, and some of you may be experiencing depression or grief. Grief doesn't always mean that feeling you have when you lose a loved one or maybe a family pet. It can be the loss of the things that you once enjoyed, like playing sports or going to the movies. We've had a lot of loss this year. Just remember that you are not alone. Your friends, your family, your teachers, your principals, and your counselors care about you. If you're going through a tough time, it's okay to ask for help and rely on your community. Yes, you have a community here at school and at home that love you and are here for you to help you through anything. You'll hear from Miss Cross about Etta James's difficult life. She experienced depression, sexism, racism, and depression, but was able to overcome her stormy days by relying on the people around her and finding her own grit. As you listen to her song, try to use your own experiences to empathize with how Etta James was feeling and how others might feel around you. Empathize means trying to put yourself in someone else's shoes so that you can understand how they might be feeling. And remember, it's okay to not be okay, but it's not okay to not ask for help. Just remember, you can always ask for help if you need it. We're here for you. Now here is Miss Cross, and she's going to give us an introduction about Etta James.
The final jazz singer we will be listening to is Etta James. Etta James was born Jamesetta Hawkins on January 25th, 1938 in Los Angeles, California. Her mother was only 14 when she had Etta, and she was raised by various foster parents. Etta received her first professional vocal training at the age of 5 from James Earl Hines, the musical director at the St. Paul Baptist Church in South Central Los Angeles. Under his instruction, she suffered physical abuse, with James often punching Etta in the chest while she sang to force her voice to come from her gut. As a result, she developed an unusually strong voice for a child her age. Her foster father also abused her and would force her to sing for his friends, beating her if she didn't. This would result in lasting trauma and caused her to have difficulty singing on demand for the rest of her career. When Etta was 14, she and her biological mother moved to San Francisco, where she formed a singing group with other local girls. They were discovered by a producer and were asked to join the singer Little Richard on his tour as an opening act. Etta performed for a few years on tour and recorded singles here and there. In 1954, Etta changed her name from James Etta to Etta James. Her debut album in 1960 was called At Last and featured a mix of styles of music, from jazz to R&B and even doo-wop. The single from that album, also called At Last, is probably the best-known version of the song and helped make her more well-known in the music industry. After this, Etta recorded more albums and singles and began headlining her own concerts. She performed at the top jazz festivals in the world, including the Monterey Jazz Festival and the New Orleans Jazz and Heritage Festival many times. Etta continued releasing music throughout her life, but she was not as successful as she had been in the early 1960s and 1970s, and she struggled with addiction for most of her life, eventually ending up in rehab. Etta released her final album called The Dreamer in 2011, and even though it didn't make much money, music critics said it was one of her best. Etta passed away on January 20th, 2012, after being diagnosed with leukemia and dementia. Etta left behind a great legacy, overcoming abuse and addiction to become one of the most dynamic jazz singers in the world. So the song we'll be listening to is called Stormy Weather. This song was originally written and performed in 1933 by Ethel Waters, and it has been performed by many musicians, including Billie Holiday, Ella Fitzgerald, Lena Horne, and Frank Sinatra. Etta sang the song on her debut album. This song is first about the singer missing her man and hoping he will return, but it can also be a symbol for missing anyone, not just a significant other. It's also a story of misery and confusion, not knowing how to get through the day when you're missing someone. The stormy weather is a metaphor for the feelings of the singer. When we miss someone, it can often feel like we're surrounded by doom and gloom, and it's important to recognize our feelings of sadness and disappointment. Then we can hope for better days. Like Etta sings in the song, "All I do is pray the Lord above will let me walk in the sun once more."
Now here is Mr. Honeycutt on the trombone, giving us an introduction to stormy weather. Enjoy.